Hey everybody, we are back with another review, and today we got my first pickup from Self-Reliance Outfitters. We got some Pathfinder gear, so without further ado, let's hop right into this review, and let's hop into our next installment for Survival Saturday. Today we're going to be reviewing some more stuff that I ended up picking up to share with you on the channel here, and it was stuff that I held off opening up, and I figured, hey, let's open them up and at least let's check them out. Maybe not in full depth or full field tested ness, but we're definitely going to unbox it and see exactly what's included from when you purchase it and what you actually receive. So first thing we're going to check out here is this stainless steel stove bush pot set. So this is the bush pot cooking set. Again, Pathfinder score right here. It's just got the little portable stove. It should be a little bush pot set, and it should also have a lid. So let's check it out. And that is what is in the box. Toss the box over there. So there's the nesting pot. Take that out. Put that off to the side. So this is where you can build your fire underneath that, and then you have your nice stable range right there, which is nice. Stainless steel, pretty cool. Doesn't seem like that would be something that you really need to worry about as long as you use this with what it's intended to be used with, which is the bush pot that it comes with, which was the actual main reason why I actually picked this up, was for this bush pot. I wanted to grab a pot that was about this size, that had a nice lip here that I could actually pour fluid out of, that had a lid with a nice long handle, but also had an ability to pick it up from the side, which is nice. Again, you probably have to do both. Depending on what type of stuff you have in there, what type of fluid or what type of food you have in there, you might need to pick up both, but it has the ability to do both, which means you could actually suspend this if you wanted to from some kind of a hook for, different type of cooking, if you would, or if you wanted to hang it from a tripod or something like that, versus having it like this, where you could just basically set it right on top of that. So again, does have a nice nesting stove with it, but this was the main thing that I ended up wanting to scoop up right here, which is really nice. It's got a stainless steel lid, and here is the pot right here, which is really cool actually. So this is going to be something that I'm definitely going to be adding to my testing throughout the year this year, because again, as it starts to get warmed up a little bit, we're going to have the ability to go out and actually field test some of this stuff, which will be actually really nice. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, turn that around. Looks like these actually will lock over it, no? Yeah, they'll actually lock over it and kind of hold it in place there, so you don't actually lose the little nesting part. It won't just pop out of there for you, but pretty cool on that. That was a little pickup that I wanted to unbox here and just show you guys what that is. But yeah, that's a 2-quart nesting pot. Bush pot, yeah, 2-quart, right? Let me see. I believe it was 2-quart, because that's what I was. 304 stainless steel. Yeah, I believe it was 2-quart. So, all right. Next thing we've ended up picking up was some of Dave Canterbury's Bushcraft series, the box set. These are some of his books that he put in here. So we got Bushcraft 101, Advanced Bushcraft, the Bushcraft Field Guide to Trapping, Gathering, Cooking in the Wild, and then Bushcraft First Aid Tips. Sounds like he covered all the bases here, so pretty stoked for that. Let's check out this. It comes in this nice little. Let's see if we can. Comes in this nice little nesting box, which is nice. We're kind of keeping them all together. Again, these are some books I've been trying to get into, but I've been seeing them sitting here on the review table, and I said, why don't I just unbox these with the pot, and we'll check them out. So the first one that comes out of the box is going to be the Bushcraft First Aid, a field guide to wilderness emergency care. We'll kind of skim through some of these and check out some of the things that are inside here, some of the diagrams, maybe if there's some knot tying guides or something. We got the Bushcraft Field Guide to Trapping, Gathering, and Cooking in the Wild. So that's really cool. We have an expert field guide to the art of wilderness survival, so maybe some tracking and stuff, some shelter setups. And this is Bushcraft 101, a field guide to the art of wilderness survival. So I imagine this is where most of you would want to start. This is where I'm going to start when I checked out this series, and I'm just going to go in order here. I'll probably end with the first aid one, but again, something that's not too bad of a size. It's not a hardcover book. It's not something crazy. You could take all these with you out into the wild, and if you want to go camping, you kind of get into the camping, immerse yourself into it. Maybe bust some of these books out and start checking out some of the things that they have in here in regards to maybe building certain things. So let's see some of the topics that he covers, at least in this survey book right here. So it looks like your pack. So he talks about the 5 C's, which is great. We did the 10 C's, his 10 C's of survivability on this channel at the dollar store for $10. So that was pretty cool, a little challenge. Next, we're going to talk about some tools, it looks like, in here in Chapter 2. And then Chapter 3 is going to be rope and cordage, perfect, webbings and knots. Chapter 4, we're talking about containers and cooking tools. Chapter 5 is going to be talking all about coverage and shelter. 6 is going to be combustion, so all about fire starting, and basically your lifeline for survival is fire. So Chapter 7, you got setting up your camp, picking out the best spot, make sure there's no widowmakers around. And let's see what we got here. Chapter 8, we got navigating terrain. That's probably going to show you how to use a compass, a map, and directional layouts to find your bearing and everything. So you got Chapter 9 here, trees, the 4 seasons resource. So I do know that there is definitely different purposes to different trees, and I'm sure he's going to go through that all in depth over here in Chapter 9. 10 is trapping and processing game, which I'm sure he's going to go a little bit more in depth in this book right here. But that's where it's going to end, is pretty much trapping and processing game, which has a lot of information. Talk about 30 pages of information. So, and we'll scroll through this one real fast. We'll see some of the things that he has in here in regards to maybe some checklists. It even shows you how to kind of roll up yourself a pack, do a roll. WorkCraft frame, look at that. Yeah, there's some great stuff in here. Checklist, shows you about knife blades. That's great. Absolutely, look at that. Even shows you notches when you're making spears and carving. There's a bow saw right there, which is pretty cool. Wood splitting position, very safe position to be in when you're cutting wood. There's making those little wedges in there for your log so you can keep it split, which is nice. Again, it's all about not hurting yourself when you're doing these things so you can continue doing things. Once you hurt yourself, you limit your capacity to be able to do most of the things that are in this book, and that includes starting a damn fire. So here's another reason why I was talking about hanging your bush pot. So this is another thing. So you could basically hang it. Having that hanger on it, most pots that you find out there that are around this size don't actually have this little hook hanger on it. They'll have these little modern folding handles out there. It's nice that this one has both, because you can use this for multiple things, putting it directly on the fire and also hanging it from something. So again, that's illustrated right here, as you can see, with these notches and the branch usage of these pot hangers. Pretty cool on that's for sure. It shows you how to dig a ditch, build a proper cooking fire if you don't have anything and all you have is a pot, how to build yourself a nice shelter. Here's a lean-to, an A-frame. Here's combustion. Here are some tools. Flint and steel right there. Tools for combustion. There's a bow drill. That's pretty dope. And then here's in the bush, part 2. This is going to be setting up camp. There. Oh, look at that. Wind and widowmakers. Those are the 4 W's. There you go. Wood, water, wind, and widowmakers. Those are the things you look for when you're setting up your camp. There's your bird's nest right there for you're starting your fires. I mean, again, this is a perfect surveyor's tool right here for everything that you pretty much would need to know. If you just knew what was in this one book right here, you'd be straight. But then all these other advanced books that come in this set is actually something that I'm going to be very excited to get into, especially this navigating section here, which is probably a section I need the most fine-tuning on in regards to reading maps and finding bearings and navigating through land and basically weighing things out, having markers set up for you. So here's the 4 seasons resource. This is another one I wanted to check out as well, which explains some usage for different parts of trees and what different trees are good for. And some of the trapping is probably something that I'd like to get into as well. So that trapping book's probably going to be neat as well. Here's some basic traps that you can set up right here with or without gear. So you can create some old school basic traps. Here's you being able to actually smoke and dry the meat out, which is pretty cool. Utilizing resources, wild edibles and plants. That's pretty cool. That's awesome, actually. Here's some bush recipes. Check that out. That's pretty cool. If you're limited on resources, or if you have some minimal things with you, it looks like you can make some pretty basic stuff. Like here's boiled beaver, which is 1 hindquarter of beaver, a large onion, 3 carrots, and 2 teaspoons of salt, which is pretty basic ingredients. So it shows you don't need many things to make tasty, delicious treats out in the wild. So here's the glossary, and that's the end of that book for sure. And this one right here, this is the Bushcraft, an expert field guide to the art of wilderness survival. So this looks like it's a little bit more. We'll check out the table of contents for some of these, and we'll see what exactly he kind of covers in here, Dave Canterbury. So first one, building your kit, natural resources, so how to be able to harvest and find things around your environment. Chapter 3, we got wood tools and simple machines, which is really cool. Again, being able to create yourself things like an anvil stump, throwing and digging sticks, a spear and a gig, maul and a mallet. I mean, this really useful information. Advanced firecraft, primitive fire starting, the flint we're talking about, flint and steel, the bow drill method, the flint steel method, solar fire, how to be able to use like a magnifying lens. Tons of different ways you can start fire primitively, and I'm sure he's going to go in depth on all these things. Sheltering, basically there's the 4 W's again, so basically more advanced things for sheltering. Knots, binds, weaving, and looms. Always can bone up on your knots. I'll definitely be doing that, that's for sure. It's chapter 7, trapping, animal behaviors. I mean, this is like priceless information in these books, which is pretty cool. So I'm kind of excited to go through these now that I've been checking out some of the table of contents, seeing what we're actually going to be getting into. Here's some preserving food resources. Hide preservation, tanning, clothing repair, woodworking, blacksmithing, which is super important, and woodworking, containers and conveyances. I mean, wow. Tons of information in your clay vessels, boats, pack frames. I mean, all kinds of stuff in that one. And here's a trapping, gathering, and cooking. So this is going to be all about feeding yourself and keeping you energized to be able to do all the things in the other books, right? So here we go. We got, it looks like a little overview on packed-in food, deciding what to bring, things to pack when you're going maybe camping or for an overnighter or for a hike. Foods that require minimal processing, pretty cool. Whole foods that don't require refrigeration, awesome. Supplemental food stuffs. We got some cooking methods, cooking in the wild. You got here chuck box contents, common substitutions, tips, tricks, building a fire, tools and utensils. We got tool improvisations from the landscape, which is awesome. Very awesome to do that as its own chapter, because that's nice that didn't get kind of jumped in with the tools and utensils. Quick bush tools, very cool. Galley pole rotisserie, tripods, we talked about some of those. Types of cooking, that's really neat. Doing this out in the wild, and I'm sure there's probably some things that maybe other people have experienced that might be added in here in regards to things you probably shouldn't do when you're doing some of these things, like frying and how to prevent making a fire. Living off the land, hunting and trapping game fundamentals, pretty cool on that. Hunting beyond the basics, trapping beyond the basics, butchering game, catching fish and frogs, Dave's favorite recipes. We'll skip to that chapter before we close the book. And preparing unconventional foods, foraging. We got preserving caught and foraged foods, emergency cooking, which is really cool. Cooking with your engine, unconventional fuels and fuel tabs, making a stove, making a rocket stove. That's super stick out of using like a stump. That's pretty cool. Or a wood log. You got solar cooking. That is awesome. Let's skip over to some of Dave's favorite recipes on 183 though. What do we got here in the center? What is this green part? Oh, look at that. So there's actually some pictures here of some edible plants, which is nice, because then you're able to actually identify them versus it being some kind of a hand sketch or something like that most books will have, is some kind of like hand sketch or something. Dave's favorite recipes. So we got sausage nuggets, survival bread. This has flour, salt, dry yeast, water, and vegetable oil. Cathead biscuits. Mountain Man breakfast, nice. Scotch eggs, bean soup, hobo stew, camp jambalaya, bread pudding, raspberry cobbler, yum. Pigs in a blanket, sausage kebabs, tinfoil trout. Very, very cool. Very cool. Farmer cheese, Marcy's oat cake, hush puppies, horseradish sauce. 2 parts wild horseradish, 1 part olive oil, and salt to taste. Very, very cool. All right, last one. We'll scoot through this table of contents, see kind of the topics he covers in this one, and then I'm gonna get into reading some of these books. To be honest with you, it's gonna be fun to check these out. Some books that I don't actually get as being a bookseller, but yeah. These are books I had to pick up from elsewhere, but again, hard books to find, but a wealth of resources inside these books. So if you can find these, scoop them up for yourself. So last one we got is going to be the Bushcraft First Aid. Let's see the chapters he covers. Know before you go. So basically planning ahead, strategizing about what you're doing. Survival skills for the wilderness, which is awesome. There's the 10 C's. We talked about the 5 C's in the first book. We have the emergency scene. So basically how to handle a situation when you come up on it, go through it, and exit the situation, it seems like. Treatment of bleeding and wounds. That's very, very useful information. You should probably read before. You should probably read chapter 1 and skip over to chapter 4. Read the whole book before you go do something. To be honest with you, because once it's happening, you don't want to be flipping through pages trying to figure out, how to work a trauma kit. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, we got blisters and burns, bone and joint injuries. You got circulatory or cardiovascular issues. You got breathing issues, neurological issues, and then abdominal issues. Which, it could be there could be some. You might have eaten the wrong plant. Which in the other book they show you some of these. He shows some of these. You got edible and then ready. You got plants to avoid. They're called poisonous or imposter plants. So, again, you eat something like that, you could be running into some abdominal issues for sure. Urinary and reproductive system issues, acute and chronic illnesses, environmental hazards, insects and animal bites, poisonous plants. We just talked about that. That's perfect. Plant medicine for the woodsman. Look at all this. Plants for dry conditions are swamp violet, sassafras, plantain, nettles, cattail, and all their uses for these that are common plants. This is awesome. Chapter 16 is going to be a very fun one for me to read through. And then it looks like tips and tricks are on page 240. Legal and ethical considerations, creating first aid kits. So how to build your own first aid kit. So let's go to 240 and see what kind of tips and tricks he had on that page, because that was highlighted. So let's see what we got back here. We got some more edible plants, it looks like. Or not edible plants, plants used for medicine. Tips and tricks. Oh, it was tips and tricks for the first aid. Okay, gotcha. So anyway, pretty cool book series. Excited to check these out. Again, the Bushcraft series from Dave Canterbury. I was able to pick this up. If you guys want, here's the ISBN number for it right here. On the bottom right there's the ISBN. This is for the whole entire set right here, and there's the barcode if you want to check that out as well. Simon & Schuster, again, 2017 when these dropped. It's a 4-book set right here. I don't know if you can get these as a 4-book set at Bass Pro or anything like that. Again, it was something I had to order online. It's not something that me, even as a bookseller and millions of books that I've had come through my hands, this set, none of these books have came through there. So, again, something I had to pick up, and it was pretty difficult to track it down. So I did, and I figured, hey, why not show it here for you guys on the channel, along with my new bush pot that I picked up, which I'm excited to use here this next camping season. That's going to be fun. So why don't you let me know down in the comments below if you've ever checked out Dave Canterbury's series, his Survival Outfitters, Survival Pathfinder Outfitters, and his Survival Bushcraft series on Instagram and YouTube. Let me know if you checked those out before, or checked out any of these books, or used any of his Pathfinder products. Let me know down in the comments below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Want more content like this, subscribe for more, because I do reviews every single day, so look out for that, and have a great rest of your day.